Hi there, and welcome to the Still Learning Podcast, the podcast for people like me who are just trying to figure it out in this thing we call life. And if you're here, it means that you're someone who likes to embrace the journey and be in the process. And though it's not always fun, you want to learn more on how to navigate that, and you're open to continuously changing so you can be the best version of yourself and the person you were called to be. And so today in episode 1 of Still Learning, we're going to be talking a little bit about me, your host, Fortune Fowle, but most importantly, we're going to be talking about the journey to still learning. And trust me, that journey wasn't a straight one, but we're here, you're here, and so I'm excited for you to hear this episode, and I hope you enjoy it. Hello, everyone. And welcome to the first episode of the Still Learning Podcast. It's kind of crazy to think that this episode's even happening, or that I'm recording this, or that someone is listening to this on the other end. And how's this life right now? And that's really what I wanted this first episode to be about, which is the journey to the Still Learning Podcast and how we even got here. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I am feeling very anxious, very nervous, and recording this episode right now. I was literally just talking about, God, I'm so scared. Because this podcast and starting this requires so much just of myself and giving myself in a way that I truly wasn't sure I was ready for, knew how to do, or even wanted to do, to be quite honest. The level of vulnerability, but also just surrender and just release of control I have to hand over to God, which He deserves, because I definitely, don't always know what's best for myself, but, just stepping out of my comfort zone in this way, which is funny, because I remember one of my prayers for this year was God, help me to become comfortable in the uncomfortable. And so I really feel like that podcast is definitely a fulfillment of that, but just stepping out and doing something I genuinely would have never thought I would do, or not even necessarily had a vision for or a dream for, but I am excited to start this journey. Also extremely terrified, scared, and all the things. But more than anything, I know that this is going to be good. And this podcast isn't just going to be for me, but for so many other people. And I'm just so excited to see the fruit that's going to come out of this, the harvest of this, how this is going to not just impact my life, but impact whoever is listening to this, hopefully in a way that is beautiful and just reap so much love and joy and kindness. And so I really am looking forward to seeing what God is going to do and how it will blow my mind and be beyond anything that I can ever imagine. And so before even diving into how we made it here to the start of Still Learning, I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about myself. And in the process of trying to figure out what to say in my little 5-minute elevator pitch, or in my, tell me about yourself from your job interviews, which I absolutely hate that question, because I don't know, I always get so stumbled to tell you about myself. What do you mean? My childhood, what's going on now, my passions. You have to get the perfect blend of all of that. And, I was really just trying to figure out what to say to you guys. But honestly, through this podcast, you guys are going to learn so much about who I am, the same way that I am learning who I am. I don't even know who I am to the fullest extent and capacity, because I'm constantly evolving and growing, and what I believed before isn't what I believe now, and may not be what I believe in the future, and who I am before may not be who I am now. But right now, just let you guys know, I'm a becoming person, and I like to use ing at the end of things, because ing means present, and it's a continuous thing being done. So continuously just being a work in progress and just owning that. And, I'm also someone who just is really just figuring this out like everyone else. And most importantly, if you don't get this, which you probably have from the intro of this podcast, is that I absolutely love Jesus, the Lord, God, the Holy Spirit, and all the things involving him. And, I probably said his name like a million times already. And I'm okay with that. And I don't think that was enough times, And you're going to probably hear it so much more throughout this podcast, and because he truly has changed my life, and I would not be who I am, where I am without him. And also this podcast wouldn't exist if it wasn't for him. And so really just that is constantly going to be shown and talked about and just experienced throughout this podcast. But here's some of the things I know about myself now. My favorite color is lilac purple. I'm 21 years old. I am graduating from college soon. From nursing. Yes, your girl is going to become a nurse. And that is actually so crazy. And I'm still processing that. And that is a whole nother episode in itself, because just trying to figure out post-grad life. The transition from undergraduate to post-grad life, the transition from being in school for literally a majority of your life and that being your sole occupation and just your sole structure, to that just being gone, and now you're just out in the world like that and have a career. That is crazy, and definitely gonna have to unpack that, because trust me guys, there's a lot to unpack there. I absolutely love Wattpad, and I'm gonna be a Wattpad fanfic to the day I die probably. The girls who get it, and I am not ashamed to say that, and you can't make me ashamed to say that. I absolutely love fashion and clothes and makeup, and is that definitely hurting my pockets? One can say that, but for me, sometimes it's just about treating yourself. You have to treat yourself. You have to take care of yourself, right? What am I working so hard for if it's not to give myself the best things in life, And also, what else do I like? What else? See, this is what I mean about this question. What else about me? Oh, it's just so hard to put everything into one. But like I said, you guys are gonna learn more about me as I learn more about myself in this podcast, through this podcast. So yeah, I'm really excited. But let's get into how this even started, guys, because it was no walk in the park. So it was a rainy Tuesday, and it was March 2021, and I'm completely making this up. Let me stop. Me making this podcast of it being raw and vulnerable and honesty, and then just beginning to start off with a fabricated turn of events. But no, how this podcast started, because it wasn't fully a lie. It did happen it was 2022. Everything was a lie. Guys, it was actually 2022. It was my second semester of my freshman year of college. God put it in my heart to start a podcast. And, honestly, it was really random for me because, again, I never necessarily wanted to be in the entertainment space, or not in this way per se. And so just the idea of starting a podcast just seemed very out of the blue. But I was definitely open to it during that time. I was like, sure, God, cool. And honestly, I'm so glad that during that time I did not start that podcast, because guys, if I did, we would be having a completely different podcast. I was actually looking back on my notes from during that time. It wouldn't have been the podcast that is right now. I don't even know what this podcast is right now. I mean, I'm still discovering it. It's a journey. That's why it's called Still Learning. But it definitely is not what it would have been if I started down. We would have had a podcast talking about your preferences, really a thing when it comes to dating, colorism. I mean, and not that we might not talk about those things in this podcast, but definitely I had a lot more maturing to do. And I'm not that mature, guys. I'm 21. I'm basically an infant. I'm not gonna lie to you. But I'm a lot more developed. The frontal lobe is a bit more developed than it was a couple years ago. I say that to say that I just had to do more mental, emotional, and spiritual growing before I can start this podcast. And honestly, that really taught me a lesson. It taught me something that, there are certain things that God will call you to do, and you should do them like now. There's a promptness, there's an urgency to do it, like to go. And there's other things that he will tell you, but it's for something for you to like kind of like look forward to. And instead of like just going immediately, it's like preparing immediately. Like he's preparing you, and so you can be able to enter that season when that time comes, like fully prepared, or the most prepared you can be, because I don't really think we can ever be fully 100% prepared for anything, but be exactly where you need to be spiritually, mentally, emotionally, in order to handle and to steward what he's called you to with a level of wisdom and understanding, grace, and maturity that you may not have had prior. And so it definitely, taught me that in that sense. But then in the recent years, especially this past year, I've had so many people, like friends and just people in my life, where I would just have conversations with them like this, and all the things I'm learning in life and my experiences, because I know I just love having those kinds of conversations. And my friends and people in my life would be like, you should start a podcast. I would even have these conversations with strangers, and they'd be like, you should start a podcast. And I was like, God, what are you trying to say? Is it time? And, I honestly, like, I could tell that God was impressing it in my heart to start this now. But the thing is, time has gone by, right? And in that time going by, right, when it initially first was in my heart, and I was so like, let's go, God, let's do this. As time passed by, I lost that willingness and just that urgency to do it. And so this time around, and God is like, okay, start the podcast now, I'm so full of anxiety and worry and hesitancy, and I'm much more quick to come up with excuses as to why I can't start it than reasons as to why I should start it. And so that's what I started finding myself happen in this time. And I am not someone who's a huge procrastinator. I actually don't procrastinate a lot. I like to kind of do things early, and that's honestly something my mom taught me when I was young. But with the podcast, I found myself procrastinating a lot. And honestly, in times when I procrastinate in life, and it's just because I'm delaying doing something because it's going to require something for me that I'm not necessarily ready or willing to give. In this podcast, I understood that it was going to require things of me that I was not necessarily ready or willing to give to God for him to use for his will. And honestly, saying that out loud it's very humbling. But yeah, that's honestly the truth. It was a matter of me feeling inadequate for it, like just unqualified. Why me? What do I have to say? What can I say that's important or value or adds to people? Because anything that I want to do in life, I want it to have value and purpose. I want to be intentional about it, and not just value and purpose, because everything has a value and everything has a purpose, but I want it to be good value and good purpose, right? And that's what differentiates everything. And so it was just kind of like, how do I even do that, God? Like, I had no idea what I'm doing. And in me telling God I don't know what I'm doing, he let me know that I don't need to know what I'm doing, and that my yes is enough. And I really wrestled with that, because I'm just someone who really values control. Like, I don't like kind of like not knowing what's coming next, or not having a plan, or just feeling unbalanced. And it's not necessarily that I'm not someone who isn't flexible and, can't pivot. I can, but I feel like I also kind of make plans where I also include the fact that I might have to pivot, and there's still that sense of control there. And so this was very like daunting for me, and it was very difficult for me to just give that control up. And because it caused me to feel very anxious and worrisome. And I started thinking about, okay, like the equipment and the audio, and God, I've had to do this all by myself. And trust me, Lord, I'm not no tech savvy warrior. Like all these different things, all these different excuses, honestly. And again, God is like, your yes is enough. And in all my worry and anxiety, I was just like, dang, like I'm getting in my own way. And it was just frustrating with myself. And I had to then start telling myself I will be overwhelmed but not overcome. And this has become like one of my mantras, like overwhelmed and not overcome. Just basically like I can allow myself to feel fear and like worry and acknowledge these feelings, but allow my feelings to be indicators in my life and not dictators in my life, and to you know allow my feelings to be something that I acknowledge and is present, but also something that I don't allow to overwhelm me, but something I can overcome. My feelings don't become an obstacle to me, and not allowing that to be something that happens. And that's definitely something I had to learn, in the process of getting to this podcast and even having the courage to start it. And not even just courage, just honestly requires so much faith. Like faith in God even trusting me with this, right? Faith in that it's going to be good and it's going to be helpful to people. And the thing is, for me with this podcast, I'm not doing this for, likes or popularity or to be the next big podcast. Like, honestly, I am okay with this podcast being for an audience of one, which is for the Lord. But I'm also just like, I want this podcast to be for whoever needs this podcast. I want it to enrich you. Like, I want it to be something that adds to you, doesn't take away from you, that encourages you, right? Not decreases you, like brings increase into your life. Like, that is what I want it to be, because I want it to be an embodiment and a reflection of who God has been to me, And so in this podcast and in Still Learning, I was just like, I don't want this to be fake, and I don't want this to be like picture perfect either, because I'm not perfect. And I feel like in all the conversations I've talked with and had with my friends throughout the years, it's just the fact that I'm not perfect and I don't have it all together and I'm still trying to figure it out. And I wish that was more talked about and more accepted. And there's so much beauty in that. I feel like in me trying to be perfect and have everything perfect, I'm so stressed out. Like, I feel worse. And then when I just accept that, it's not perfect now, but it's being perfected, right? Like, that I'm getting there. It's getting to that point. And that's such a beautiful thing. So when I started really taking God seriously, I always took him seriously, but when I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to fully surrender. Because my thing was like, if I say I'm going to live a life fully surrendered to the Lord and I'm going to trust and obey him, then I actually have to live it out. Like, I actually have to put action behind my words, because without that, then it's honestly like empty. I'm just saying empty words. I'm not actually living it. I'm not living like with intentionality and with purpose, and I'm not standing on business. Okay. Like, I'm just going to do this. Black Friday was happening. I was like, I'll get my cute little equipment. Like, I wrote everything down on paper, guys. Like, outlined everything, not everything, but just, I was really just like with God in my quiet time with him, like, okay, God, what's the vision? Why are we doing this? Like, what's the space? Who is our audience? Like, I was just really wanting it to be something that I could be proud of. And I don't know how long this podcast would be, right? Because it will be for a season or for a lot longer. Who knows? Only God knows. But I want to make sure that the duration that it is good, that it is encouraging, that people will walk away from it being filled, and not being drained. So I wanted to share with you guys some of the things I've written down over the last couple weeks or months in terms of curating and developing this podcast. And again, I don't have the podcast planned from start to end, from episode 1 to episode 100. I don't at all. It's an everyday thing for me. Every day I'm still learning. And when I caught myself being frustrated with the process of this, like, I was just like, wait, this is exactly what the podcast is about. It's about being in the process. It's about learning. It's about showing grace to yourself and the fact that you don't know everything, and that there is still room to grow, and giving yourself that room to grow and giving others the room to grow and mature, right? And so every time I was just like, oh, it's not it. It's not perfect. Like, this podcast reminded me of that. Like, it was crazy. And so when I was like trying to think, okay, what's the message, God, right? I was just like, the gospel and the aftermath of receiving it, what it looks like to have the good news be actively at work in your life. Because I think it's a misconception that it gets easier, and it doesn't get easier, to be quite frank. But the thing that I realized in this walk that I've been doing for now 6 years, going on to 7, I realized that just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's good, and that honestly the best things in life are things that don't come easy. And I don't want to miss out on good things because they're not easy. I don't want easy to be the standard that I live my life, or the limit that I put on what I can receive in my life and what I can do. And so that is just something that I'm continuously just trying to walk out, and just acknowledging that who I am when I started this, when I gave my life, like, is completely different to who I am now. And honestly, I marvel at that the change and transformation that's continuously happening within me, because my mind really has been renewed and my heart really has been transformed, and it's still being renewed and transformed. And so just that process, and just being able to reflect on that and see like how much I've grown, and just kind of like, wow, I'm gonna grow more though. Like, I still have to experience so many more things in life that are going to test me, and that are going to strengthen me, and that are going to shape me, and that are going to change me. But how do I navigate that and embrace that as well? This process of being stripped, dead, resurrected, and made new, because the thing is, I'm made new, right? But I'm still being made new, if that makes sense. Like, I'm a new thing that's learning how to be a new thing. So just really that openness to process, and to being in the process, and just, being vulnerable and transparent and honest about what the process looks like, and that I'm not perfect, and that's okay, right? Like, Jesus didn't give his life to me when I was perfect. And that should say a lot, that perfection is not my qualification for salvation. And so I am constantly having to kind of wrestle with this within myself, because I struggle with that, with perfectionism. I feel like I need to have everything together. It's not good enough until it's 100%, but maybe the fact that it's not 100% is what makes it good, right? And just kind of having to unlearn that and learn that, and like how this process and this walk requires a lot of unlearning and like learning. So, I just really want to create a safe space, because a lot of us are feeling these things and going these emotions and going through similar things in our journey, or have experiences that can help others when they go through it, but we are so afraid to talk about it and discuss it because we don't feel safe amongst the people we are with or who are in our life. We don't feel like we have a space where we can just be this raw and open and transparent. And I'm not even saying that I'm the safest place, or this podcast is the safest place, but I'm gonna work on it. And I want this podcast to be a place where we're working towards that and being a safe space. And I understand that this podcast may not be for everyone, and I may not be for everyone, and that can be hard to really rationalize with, because as people, like, who doesn't want to be liked, who doesn't want people to, understand them? But I'm still learning this. You have to be okay with being misunderstood, and not everyone being for you, and you not being for everyone either. I mean, I am a delicacy, right? Like, not everyone can have me, and I can't have everyone. And honestly, that is a good thing, because listen, I don't want anything that's not for me, but I neither want to bring anything into anyone's life that isn't for them either. And so when it came down to, like, asking God, who's the audience for this? Like, who is this going to reach? Because again, like, I want this to reach whoever it is meant to reach, right? And, God just really let me know it's whoever has ears to hear. Simple as that. Whoever has ears to hear, this podcast is for you. Like, we do not need to be in the same journey or on the same journey in life in order to be in community with one another, in order to encourage and uplift one another, in order to display love and grace. We do not need to be in the same place because, quite frankly, we're not running the same race. And so it's really for anyone. There is no exclusionary criteria here because there's no exclusionary criteria to salvation. And so you want to listen to this? Listen to this. I hope you do. At the end of the day, my heart for this podcast is simply for it to be one that reflects the heart of God. That's it. Simply to be one where we're vulnerable and we're honest and love and truth and kindness can breathe out of this, and a place where people feel seen and heard and understood, and like, it's not just me, I'm not alone. A place where people actually are more accepting and more open about being in a process. And honestly, all of us recognizing that we are unfinished products. We are unfinished products. We are jars of clay being molded every single day. And we are all just living this life once. Like, recognize that everyone lives this life and lives life one time. We all get one go out of it, right? And no one actually knows what comes ahead in their life. So we're literally learning on the job. Like, actually living life is literally the job where you are learning on the job. And so every day is something new. Even if you plan for tomorrow, you still have like, anything can happen. Things can derail your plans at any given moment in time. And so you're still learning how to navigate those things. And if we just accepted that more and admitted more, that level of humility of like, I don't know, embracing and just not being so scared of not knowing, and being willing to just be curious enough to explore and get to know and discover more where you can, grow more where you can, learn more where you can, I think we'll have a place and be a people who loves and cares and shows more mercy and grace for one another. And in saying that, that can evolve, that can change later. This podcast can do a whole turnaround, but who knows? But that's it right now. And things that are right now aren't always going to be forever, right? So appreciating things now, appreciating what they may become, or acknowledging or learning how to pivot for what they do become, and just embracing the process of still learning. And that's it. I think that's it, guys. I really hope that if you listen to this, that you listen to the end, hey, and that you keep listening, that you come back again and again and again, because I'll be here again and again and again by God's grace. And that you share with your friend, that you share with your family member, or just share with anyone who you really believe like this needs to hear this, or you believe this podcast would be the right fit for them on their morning jog, walk, in the car, riding to school, walking to work, all the things. But I am really excited and happy that you're here. I'm happy that you're meeting me here. And I'm really excited to see where this is gonna go. And that was the first episode of the Still Learning podcast. Thank you so much for joining with me and listening with me to this episode about my heart and the journey to getting here. This is only the beginning. There's so much more that lies ahead, and I hope that you are a part of it and that you are blessed by it, and that we all continue to embrace being in the process and open up to continuously being still learning people. And so thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you again, or more like you'll hear me again next week. Bye.